Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Welcome, everybody. We're back on the air. At least I am in person. I have my co-host, Mr. Anthony RIVIECCIO, on the phone. He is working on a campaign. That's why he can't be in the studio. But say hello, Anthony, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, everyone, and I hope everyone can hear me. This is Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO. People that watch our show know that I have three lives. My first life is I am an income tax and financial advisor for RIVIECCIO Financial Advisors. My second life is I am an adjunct professor of personal finance for both Herbert H. Freeman College and Monroe College. And my third life, which has me on the phone, is that I am a wonderful founder of an organization called Northwest Bronx Democrats, working on the east-west side of the Bronx at the moment for our candidate, 80th Assembly District candidate, Phyllis Natasio, which is in a campaign office that does not have Wi-Fi.
I want to say one thing to our audience. I wrote an article about Miss Nastasio's opponent, John Zherka Jr., filming inside the Morris Park poll site. Now, there has been some feedback about that article because it says that I wrote that he filmed the back of of the opponent to his mentor, Natalia Fernandez, or I should say, I filmed the rear. That I wrote. He filmed the rear of her going into the bathroom, and there's yes.
I know that's a topic for discussion, but do you think it should be a topic now?
Yes, I want to let our audience know that right away, that there's an uproar to that because they claim that it should have been the rear, as I first stated, the back rather than the rear. But as you can see, I am getting both words commonly used, and people commonly use both words.
Well, let's take a couple of steps back. Number one, I didn't know that John Zherka or Samantha Zherka was more important than Bidenomics. But since you brought that up, I guess we might as well start on that first. And the audience should know, sadly, that we received a phone call from her campaign this morning. I understand that she injured her arm actually last night, which is why she wasn't at certain events last night, and her arm seems to be bothering her as we speak, so she cannot be on the show today. She may or may not be campaigning later this evening, but of course that's up to her health. But
no, she's going to stay in today. Tony,
she would not be on the show today.
Anthony, I spoke to her. She'll be out the whole day, and she'll try to go back on the campaign trail tomorrow. And you have a hi from a Daniela, but she didn't say hi to me, of course.
Hi, Daniela.
So let me just finish that.
Wait. You should know that, and I hope Samantha can hear me. Of course, I want Samantha to get well, and I hope all the candidates are good. But as a campaign manager, the candidates should know they're not going to get any sleep till Tuesday.
No, till Wednesday.
Till Wednesday, you're correct.
Thank you, Daniela. Hi. So let me just continue.
Daniela, call me later.
Let me continue on the story. The only person that's allowed to film inside a poll site is a person in the media. No one else is actually allowed to film inside a poll site. But apparently, Mr. Candidate John Zherka Jr., who is a 13-year veteran of politics and a former district leader who should know the rules of what happens inside a poll site, took out his camera as candidate Samantha Zherka went outside to smoke and then came back in. He claimed she was electioneering. Now, John, I would love you to come on the show and show me this film where she's electioneering. But then again, John, you couldn't film inside a poll site. So why didn't you go to the coordinators and have the coordinators do something? Obviously, and why did you follow this woman into the bathroom? As she says, obviously, I know you didn't go into the bathroom, but you followed her up to the door. And from witnesses, they say you realized you made a mistake and then ran out of the poll site, John. So if you want to call or come on the show, we'll have you on. But obviously, John, you know you made the mistake and that you're not allowed to film inside a poll site. And of course, the Bronx Democratic Party leader, Jamal Bailey, is going to do nothing about it because he did nothing 2 years ago when one of his district leaders violated 2 election laws inside a poll site. So, I mean, at that time, he said, well, I haven't read my bylaws yet. I don't know what I can do. So, Jamal, did you read the bylaws of the Bronx Democratic Party? And do you know the New York State election law? Okay, I would hope that you would have read it by now. So, okay, Anthony, let's move on to Bidenomics now.
Wait a minute, Bob.
Okay, you have something to say.
Bob, slow down. You said quite a bit in 2 minutes or 3 minutes.
That's right.
Let's slow that down for a moment. I thought, or better yet, it's sad that we can't have Samantha on the show today, only because an incident happened. Neither of us were there. I understand you did interview her. I have not spoken to her on this issue, but I would have liked to have spoken to her and for her to speak to the audience about this issue. I'm not disputing whether anyone is right or wrong, but it sounds like based on your interview, you've already made a decision. I mean, as far as who's right and who's wrong, because it sounds like you've discredited Mr. Sakaro very deeply in the last minute or so.
It's more than just the candidate, Mr. Zherka, who I spoke to. I spoke to several people, and as you know, a reporter does not have to give out the sources because some of the sources were from inside the Board of Election who witnessed the event, and I can't, and I will not give out their names.
So then if your article is accurate based on the number of sources that you have, and therefore you wrote the article, then as I and as many people have said to you in the last couple of days, then I guess you must amend rear as opposed to back, because you wrote rear twice in the article. You never wrote back once. And of course, rear, when it comes to a lady, could be very, very, very subjective. And this is one of the reasons why, of course, we would love to have Samantha, or would have loved to have her on the show. And of course, you can come on next week to clarify your article if it needs to be any clarification.
Well, the thing is, Anthony, we would love to have the film, but obviously I would say it's that Mr. Sakaro probably destroyed it already, saying that, well, I never filmed anything. That's what I would say if I was him. Would you not agree?
I guess I should say, John, you're welcome to come on the show, of course. But I guess the only one that can go any deeper than that would be Samantha, again, because you weren't there and I wasn't there. So I don't want to put anything more into it than that. The only one that can put more into it than that would be Samantha.
Again, it was from several other sources also, which I will not. Okay,
so then basically you're saying you're suggesting that John was videotaping her rear end.
No, Anthony.
Rear twice. You didn't write
Anthony.
back at all. You just said you had a number of sources that collaborated this. So what was he?
Anthony. The word back and rear can be used in the same sentence or the same sense.
You used the word rear twice. You didn't use the word back at all.
Well, the word rear means back.
So, and I got to resume that rear end because you just
Anthony,
said you collaborated it with a number of sources.
Anthony, one more thing. The word end was never mentioned, just rear. I didn't say rear end. I just said rear of her.
I didn't say you said rear end, and let's clarify. I didn't say you said ass. But you wrote rear twice.
Right. So
I got to presume you didn't mean the back because you didn't write back once.
Well, in my case, rear and back were the same thing. I was told.
That's your case. How about the average reader? We took a survey the other night, and 9 out of 10 people thought you mentioned rear end because you said rear twice.
That's what I was told. He filmed her rear. Okay? So I wrote what I was told by the witnesses.
So then,
okay,
witnesses told
Anthony,
you that you wrote a story that you never saw.
Anthony, reporters don't see their stories. They get the facts from witnesses or from other people. Okay,
Right,
let's move on to Bidenomics,
so
Anthony.
Anthony,
Our producer.
We haven't heard both sides yet.
Well, John, John doesn't, or he hasn't produced a film, so we don't know. Our producer wants us to move on to Bidenomics.
Okay, Mr. Producer.
All right, now, I understand there was a 0.75% increase in the Fed rate. What does that do to Bidenomics, Anthony?
Could you repeat that?
There was a 0.75% increase in the Fed rate, 0.75%.
That is correct. The technical word is 0.75%.
Okay.
That is correct. Yes, that came from a 2-day Federal Reserve meeting that started on Tuesday, ended on Wednesday, and of course the markets responded appropriately, sadly, to a major increase like that. Of course, the Federal Board Chair said you can expect more increases in the upcoming months, but they will not be as deep as the one that just took place. It is now very obvious, as I said, talking about Bidenomics in the past, that the economy is doing one thing, interest rates are doing another, and they both are on separate missions. The Federal Reserve Board is very adamant about wanting to stop inflation, even if it means putting the economy at risk. Therefore, it would be up to the Congress, to our federal government, to put stimulus in our economy, since the Federal Reserve Board is going to raise interest rates. This is why the markets don't know what to do. And when the markets don't know what to do, more often than not, they will go down. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know you must have seen your most recent 401k statement. Welcome to Bidenomics.
Okay, what else is happening in the economy? I see gas prices are going up. And
that is correct. Gas prices are starting to trickle up again. And as I said to you off air, and this is just my own personal opinion, I think now we are literally back to the 1970s. And what I mean by that is not just inflation. Normally when you have inflation, you allow suppliers and manufacturers and sellers to put an inflated price on it. So if the inflation is, say, 3%, which is the real extra cost, and I inflate my prices 5 or 6%, and I can blame it on anything, right? So as you and I had discussed this week off the air, why has toilet paper gone up 40% in the last month, right? It's not because of supply chains, right? Why has spaghetti gone up 30% in the last couple of months? It's not because of supply chains. It's because of a combination of inflation and now corporate greed.
Okay, because I know I went to the little fruit stand, and lettuce was $4.99 a head. I said, what? I'm not paying $4.99 for a head of lettuce. That's normally anywhere from $1.99 or less.
Right.
So, and I see that diesel fuel is up to $5.99 a gallon. But we have a guest who is Kevin Pazmino, and Mr. Producer, can you bring him on so we can talk about the 81st Assembly District? Anthony, our guest, Kevin Pazmino, is on. Can you hear me, Kevin? Kevin.
Fantastic. Street is live. Once we have the slate, please.
Well, Kevin's working right now.
He's camera set. Let me know when Tony's ready.
He's on a film. He's doing a film. Can you hear me, Kevin?
Action. Hey, what's up, Robert? How you doing?
Okay. Okay, Kevin. Anthony's on the phone here with me. You're live you're in the studio with us. Tell us about your run for the 81st Assembly District.
Yeah, so it's been, I guess, 2 years since I actually got involved in the political scene and whatnot. After meeting Chairman McManus, I got involved, ran in city council race in the special election in the spring of 2021, and then again in the general election in 2022 in that November. 2021 that November. Obviously, we know that Baby Dinowitz won that. His father used his political pull, I feel, in my opinion, to help him get into that position. I think certainly in the special election there were way better candidates than him. But let's just focus. So now that brings us to this general election and whatnot. I mean, frankly, it just seems to me that, what we have a problem in the United States and in our state is basically a bunch of people that are career politicians, opportunists, who do not care about the constituents and basically just only care about their own agendas and whatnot. So, I growing up, I used to be a Democrat, way back when being a progressive meant being anti-war and being, anti-corporatist. And then but by the time even Obama ran, I felt that, the two-party tyranny wasn't serving the people. It was just a bunch of, sellouts and whatnot. So, in the first run for Obama, I voted for St. McKinney in the Green Party. And then I voted for Ron Paul in 2012 when he ran for re-election. I felt that Bernie got the election stolen from him. And I was actually a Bernie supporter at the time, but I'm actually, after President Trump was elected, I actually saw that for the first time he actually stopped wars and he was actually working for the people and whatnot. And it was shown, I thought, in terms of the media, in terms of like both sides of the corporatist, right and left, attacking him left and right. And I think the people are fed up. I think they want a populist candidate. Jeffrey Dinowitz, my opponent's been in his office for 29 years. And, and frankly, I mean, obviously, Robert, you ran against him
in 1996.
1996, exactly. So, you know more better than anyone about how entrenched Jeffrey Dinowitz is and whatnot. And I think I remember you talking about in one post on social media about how, things that, when I talk about corporatists and just opportunists and whatnot, about, passing certain legislation to deny certain building projects. But then as soon as that deal is dead, then he repeals it. And then all of a sudden, the people that he's favorites, then it gets the opportunity for the contract, and repeals the upzoning freeze and whatnot. So, I just think Dinowitz needs to go. I think the people of the 81st Assembly District need better representation, people who actually care about what they want and whatnot. So, I'm looking in there. I'm doing the best I can. It's just me, basically. Pat McManus, the chairman, is done everything he can to support me. Mike Rendino, obviously on the GOP, they petitioned to get me on the line for this year too, but there was some issues with the paperwork and whatnot. So I got bumped off the GOP line this time around. But I do feel that with what's going on in terms of the upper ballot, the upper ticket, in terms of Zeldin, Joe Pinion, Michael Henry, that people are just kind of fed up with the Democratic Party, the supermajority that they've had for almost 15 years now.
I myself liked the debate where Joe Pinion really gave it to Chuck Schumer. All right.
Oh, yeah.
So there are some good candidates. Anthony, by the way, are you still with us?
I still am. Kevin, I got a question for you, but before I ask you this question, can you tell the audience the neighborhoods that represent the 81st? Sure.
So that's we're in Wakefield, in Woodlawn, Norwood, parts of Bedford Park, parts of Bainbridge area, Kingsbridge, Riverdale. Woodlawn already. There's some areas of Williamsbridge. What else am I missing? I mean, there's it's broken down, I think, into 7 main spots, but there's obviously little neighborhoods here and there and pieces in terms of the way the lines are and whatnot, where I catch.
The reason why I asked you, it was twofold, and it will lead to my question. The first reason was because I thought the audience, should have a breakdown of the 81st. But number two, I'm going to slightly disagree with something you said a moment ago. If you have looked at Jeffrey Dinowitz's last 4 elections, you will see that not Jeffrey, but Jeffrey's ticket, Jeffrey's slate, Jeffrey's what I call tree, political tree, outside of Riverdale has lost every election. Their district leaders have lost every non-Riverdale area. What has saved them the last 3-4 elections has been Riverdale. Wakefield has not voted for the Jeffrey Dinowitz ticket. Norwood has not voted for the Jeffrey Dinowitz ticket. Kingsbridge has not voted for the Jeffrey Dinowitz ticket. So I think, my own opinion, now that the Jeffrey Dinowitz ticket is not getting non-Riverdale votes, they are getting Riverdale votes. I think that kingdom is very, very fractured.
No, I agree. I mean, I think the biggest thing, first of all, in the city council run in November of 2021, I mean, 1 million people. I think it was about 1 million people in the whole entire city of 8 million people voted. So that's like an eighth of the population decided Eric Adams, decided him being in the position. So voter turnout to 100% is going to be in my favor. If and to your point, if the people of Norwood, if the people of Woodlawn, or the people of Wakefield come out and vote, I have no doubt that I have a really good chance of taking it. And those are the kind of the areas that I've actually been focusing on and whatnot. As you can see, I've been out in Woodlawn quite a bit there with my Woodlawn Rock shirt. Yeah, and I mean, if and when I'm elected, I'm going to be moving the office from the Kingsbridge area over. I'm thinking about areas in Norwood, potentially Wakefield. Those are the areas that have been underserved for a very long time. It's also more centralized to the district and whatnot too. So, obviously I love my Riverdale, neighbors and whatnot, but out of the district, my neighborhood is certainly the most well off and whatnot, in terms, and that also goes to show in terms of when you say that he's saved by the Riverdale vote, it's because those people, the people in my area, my neighbors and whatnot, because we are a little more affluent in that area, have the ability to get out there and vote and whatnot. And I think that's also has to do a little bit with the infrastructure of like what the Benjamin Franklin Club and whatnot, and how their tentacles have been wrapped around that whole political matrix for a while. So I think that's and it's all my posters, they get torn down every time I put one up. They get torn down again. My neighborhood. I always check on the ones in Norwood, Wakefield, and Woodlawn and whatnot. They're always still up, but the ones in Riverdale always get torn down. So
Kevin, let me tell you the story. The Conservative Party put Jeffrey Dinowitz in office.
How is that? I think you might have. Can you elaborate?
The special election that he was in between himself, Mark Friedlander, and a third candidate on the Conservative Party line, the former fire chief in Riverdale, Herb McKay. Now, Mark Friedlander was supposed to have the Conservative Party line, but he said Ray Harding convinced him to take the Liberal Party line. And the then head of the Bronx Conservative Party put up Herb McKay, a fire chief from Woodlawn, who got 18%.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because I really disagree with. I frankly, I don't like. One, I hate money in politics. So what that ends up becoming, when you drill that down, it basically means that like I said earlier, it's a two-party tyranny. Because we have these two major parties. Like I'd love to get rid of all parties and have it be about the platform, have it be about getting on the ballot, and then kind of just have it be like a one source for information in terms of candidates that the either the city provides or the state provides. And so that way, I think it's ridiculous that you can allow people to donate to a campaign. People who live in San Francisco and whatnot, donating to a campaign is ridiculous. If you don't live in New York, you shouldn't be donating. And frankly, in general, like the taxpayers pay enough in taxes.
Kevin, what is the one thing that you think you should do that the current assemblyman is not doing?
Well, I think listen to your constituents. I mean, the issue with Jeffrey is that he does not care. Like if you have a difference of opinion with him, then he'll label you, he'll demonize you. He used those tactics when I ran for the special election against his son. His son was like, "Oh, he called me a white nationalist because I was a Patriot Party." It was the name of my platform, and I'm like, "Hey, buddy, I'm Colombian and Ecuadorian, so I'm certainly not white. Do I have pride in my country? Sure, but it's ridiculous. I live in New York, so it's not like I'm some far right. They always labeled me far right and all this crazy stuff, and I'm like, but it just they know how to play the game and whatnot. So, and then when the parents were worried about the shot and whatnot, and what that meant in terms of their children's being treated like experiments, because frankly, the only shot that was approved by the FDA is the Comirnaty, and that doesn't actually get into production and available until 2023. So any shot that anybody's taken is still under that emergency act and whatnot. So, and I know that if it ever comes out, as more information comes out about the vaccine and that kind of stuff, if it becomes that there are issues with it and whatnot, which as information does come out, that's what it's showing. They're going to try to blame, Operation Warp Speed. It was his fault. It was the president's fault with Warp Speed and whatnot. And that's absolutely false. And I'm here first and foremost to say that it's people like Jeffrey Dinowitz and the corporations that mandated it and forced people to get it. Those are the people who need to be held accountable. The Operation Warp Speed was to try to mitigate a lot of the fear and try to get things up and running and whatnot. But there was still, the ability to say no. It wasn't going to be mandated to take. It was just like for those who were afraid and for those to try to be, help things reopen and come back to normal, like as like a sense of like a way of repairing things and whatnot. But when you start mandating things, it just starts dividing people. And obviously, Jeffrey Dinowitz has played a huge part in terms of getting rid of religious medical exemption, and he's been pushing to get it mandated for children and whatnot. And that's really, you know, one of my main motivations is like, stay away from my kids. I'm their father. They have one father, and I'm there to, you know, I take care of them and whatnot. And I'll be the one who decides what happens with them. So yeah, like I think that's a major thing, and that's a big point in terms of you know, some of the candidates running for mayor with anyway, a lot of the candidates that have been running in general in the conservative and Republican lines have taken that line of freedom. Go ahead.
Kevin, let me ask you a question since you're talking about the COVID vaccine.
Sure.
Do you think people, once they have it, get immune to it?
I mean, you know, it's tough to say with anything with the COVID vaccine right now, because there's just so much that came out about it originally.
No, not the vaccine, the COVID itself, because I had COVID early on in March of 2020, and the former commissioner of health told me I was immune to COVID now since I got over in 5 days. I have no any ailments or anything. And Dr. Katz, the head of HCC, even told me that I don't need the vaccine. But when I took it, I got sick.
Oh, I mean, I agree that I believe in the human body, and when put it this way, personally, as you know, as a father and in my family, we've never taken the flu vaccine. You know, before COVID, we never took the flu vaccine. What also we never got was the flu. You know, if we ever caught a cold or something like that, we had herd immunity amongst our family. We got it for like a week, maybe 2 weeks, because, you know, one gives it to the next, gives it to the next. But then after that, we were fine. And too many of our other relatives who did take the flu vaccine, with, you know, one of my wife's aunts got like Bell's palsy for a little bit, and so there was issues with it where I was like, listen, we're healthy. You know, we take care of ourselves. We eat healthy and whatnot. We exercise and whatnot. We try to practice healthy behavior and whatnot. So we just never were about taking the flu vaccine. So we're big proponents of just like the human body and the immune system. So that's why I feel that's I think what one of the things that really upset the public was that it was being forced on people. And frankly, now we're coming to find out that a lot of the stuff that was coming out about was not true. Like they were saying, oh, it will prevent you from getting it, but you would still get it. You would prevent from transmitting it. But then that's not true either. And then they went so far to start redefining what a vaccine is in order to kind of mandate it. So it's like so much politics and just like, you know, just spin. And it came from both sides of the media. It came from a lot of these career politicians. And I think the people are just really fed up with the infringement of our rights and whatnot. So
you have another question for him, Anthony?
I do. Kevin, it's funny you're talking about Jeffrey Dinowitz and the Democrats, because I presume you're well aware that now there's a second Democratic club in the district called the Unity Democratic Club, and I think it's safe to say that is an offshoot of the Ben Franklin Club that doesn't want to be affiliated with the Ben Franklin Club anymore. So I'm curious, how do you feel about this new club, and do you think it could be helpful to your campaign?
So, you know, I was really upset that in the special election that Abigail Martin didn't make it to the ballot. You know, I don't know what happened, whatever, but she didn't get to make it on there. And frankly, out of all like the Democratic or the leftist leaning politicians, she felt like the most to me, like kind of, and she, no, don't get me wrong, like I certainly disagree with her, a lot of her politics and whatnot, but I just felt like she was at least more about the people and whatnot. And so it kind of bummed me out that she couldn't make the special election. And she also, you know, she lives in my area and whatnot. I saw her last week at one of the events at PS 81, and I actually got to meet her in person for the first time and whatnot. I actually reached out to her yesterday, asked whether or not who they were backing, whether it was Dinowitz or Al Garcia Wilford in this election, and they said they're not going to actually back anybody in 2024. And I was like, okay, well, you know, listen, if I get elected, I want to sit down with your people and kind of, you know, really know about your concerns and your issues, and I want to work with you guys. Because like I said, like, you know, I'm a moderate, and frankly, in today's Democratic Party and today's liberal party and whatnot, they've just gone so far left that the moderates are just left in the wayside. And I think that's the reason why the Unity Party kind of came to fruition, is because, you know, and like I said, I think they do lean a little more progressive and whatnot, but I'm not the type to avoid a conversation, you know. I mean, it's what it's all about, outreach and whatnot. So I've already reached out to them to tell them, like, listen, if I'm elected, we're going to sit down and I'm going to make sure that your voice is heard, and that we're going to find a solution, a common solution. And I think that, my area, my district, 81st district is moderate, so I think that, and we're, so when you say you're Republican or conservative and whatnot, you're talking about people who are New Yorkers. So it's not like we're, whatever the stereotypes are about being a Republican and, you're a racist white person if you're conservative and whatnot, or Republican. So, which is just not the case, so I have reached out to them. I think that they're doing good work in terms of just actual outreach to the people and whatnot. Like I said, with Dinowitz, when the parents were upset, instead of actually sitting down and meeting with them, he just called them, super spreaders. He called that he would send his operative Frederick to come over and take film, strategic photos to try to like spin in the media to call us all racist and whatnot. One of the events was actually set up by Rob Astorino, it's not like it was like just a bunch of random people who were coming to talk to him. It was Rob Astorino, was one of the major candidates for governor in the primaries, and you're just going to just like dismiss him, like, oh, this is just a bunch of like, right-wing extremists, and like there's no legitimacy to what we're saying. So and that's just what he does. If he doesn't agree with you, he just finds a way to make you look like you're a racist or an anti-Semite, and or he'll just call you super spreader and whatnot, and so and whatnot.
Now, Kevin,
yeah,
it looks like you're on a movie set that you
yes,
had something. Can you give us a little explanation? I know Anthony said that he's going to be asking you for free tickets to the premiere.
Yeah, sure. Seriously, you could be my guest at the premiere. So I'm gonna film. We're filming actually up in Newburgh, New York. So it's been a little challenging coming down to it. I have to kind of be up here, and then on the weekends is when I'm really pushing, campaigning and whatnot. Obviously, thank you so much for interviewing me today as well. This is going to be very helpful, as well as getting the word and the message out. I've been getting a lot of good response on social media from the various posts and whatnot. But yeah, I'm on a film set right now. I can't really talk too much about the title and the company who's producing it and whatnot. But it's essentially a cross between Dexter and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So it's an action movie. So we got a bunch of stunts and whatnot. And just so people know, just while we talk about the movies, and I've been doing
Night of the Living Democrats.
Yeah, a zombie movie, exactly.
Real quick, Kevin, because I know you gotta go. Give me your opinion on two quick things. Should the 81st Assembly District have more affordable housing, and should it have bike lanes?
The bike lane situation, I'm not too sure of. I kind of feel like it'd be better suited in our area because there are some bikers and whatnot. Like most of the time they go towards Van Cortlandt Park. I'd like really to work on the Greenway and connecting the Greenway up to upstate and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a way better thing for the bikers. I think we'd get way more commerce that way as well. And if we figured out a way of building out the riverfront. Sorry, the other question was what was the other one again?
Affordable housing.
Of course. I mean, we definitely need affordable housing, and I was actually going to get into that. So one of my plans is, I want to basically do a freeze, an upzone freeze in the 80th in the city, where we focus on infrastructure and we focus on quality of life, and we focus on repairing maybe some funds for homeowners to repair their homes and help build property values up. At the same time, I want to ease the zoning on homeowners to be able to rent out rooms and whatnot. In the meantime, so we focus on quality of life and infrastructure. I want to work with the other assembly districts further upstate, where Newburgh specifically has a big land bank that they're trying to really kind of build up the city and whatnot, and they're trying to get more people up here. So I'd like to build up further upstate. I really want to connect New York State's infrastructure, so that way it makes it easy to commute, and then try to focus in those 10 years of providing first-time home ownership upstate and whatnot with an easy commute to the city. I also think that part of this too, when we do start opening up the building in the city, instead of just having like locked in prices for the lottery system where you get grandfather, from the get, you're kind of built in, locked into a nice price locked rental situation. I think I'd like to take a page out of Uncle Dion and do something where it's rent to own and whatnot. You know what I mean? Like, he had a great idea in terms of that. So maybe it's that, when we do have lottery systems and we do start building in the city, we just do rent to own instead. And because that's when you're really going to address systemic poverty. If someone can own their place.
Kevin, we have to go to commercial. I want to thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me.
And when we come back, we'll have the Northwest Bronx Democrat segment and talk about the election itself and all the candidates from governor down. So let's go to commercial, and thank you again, Kevin. for coming.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. Take care. All right, bye-bye.
In a world where the quality of information available to poorer communities is doctored, tainted, and sometimes regressive, where the words fake news have come to mean other people's opinions, it is vital to rely on news platforms with journalists who have feet on the ground and can report the truth. New York Parrot, a New York-based national and global news outlet, is changing the narratives of media operations. We focus on the news that matters, like self-empowerment, entrepreneurship, finances, health, security, politics, and more. We strive to curb violence, racial and economic discrimination, and to promote peace and socio-economic development of multiculturally diverse world. As we give voice to the people, we also give your business a voice and make it heard. Get your product and services off the ground by advertising on our fast-growing platform. With so much of daily visits to New York Parrot, you can't afford to be invisible to prospective clients on the website they trust the most. Our posts reach millions of people across the New York State and around the world. Advertising on our news site will unlock an audience of thousands of potential customers on your doorstep. New York Parrot is born to prosperously speak tomorrow for the voiceless.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely finish you.
Okay, welcome back to our show. It is time for the Northwest Bronx Democrat segment. Anthony, take it away. Who's your guest today, or what are you talking about?
Well, we're going to talk about a couple of things, and thank you, Bob. First and foremost, welcome to our Northwest Bronx Democrat segment. Because I'm not in the studio, I'm going to try to keep it as brief as possible. The original topic was going to be Bye-Bye Natalia, or as we affectionately know her as Krabby Miss Natty. Simply because, of course, I am representing Phyllis Natasio, representing the 80th Assembly District. But, Bob, I bring both of us a guest. I have here with me, straight from the Republican Party office here on Williamsbridge Road here in the Bronx, that's working for the Lee Zeldin campaign, the Michael Henry campaign, of course, Phyllis campaign, the John Greeny campaign. Have I missed anyone, Ms. Torres?
No, not at all.
Then come on over here, because we got Robert Press here on the other line, and I'm here with you. And Robert is going to ask you what is happening in our office. Say hi to Madeline, Robert.
Hello, Madeline. What is happening?
Hey, Bob. Well, everything has been great here at the office. We're getting good feedback. People are coming in, asking for literature, science, stuff of that sort, and they're doing their job. You know, everyone's coming out and voting, and they have high hopes. They look like people have high hopes for these midterm elections of 2022, and I have high hopes about it based on what I'm seeing. You know, the people participating, being a voice, being the hands and feet for these elections. So it's been working out really great. And everyone's working like a team, like it should have been, you know, in the beginning. But, you know, everything's being built up again in the Republican Party, and it's stronger than ever. So that's pretty much my report on what I've been seeing here at the Republican office of the Bronx.
And I understand that the office is now located where former City Councilman Mark Jonai had his office on Williamsbridge Road. Am I correct on that?
Yep, 1478 Williamsbridge Road here in the Bronx.
Just south of Eastchester Road. Anthony, anything more on your report?
Well, I just want Madeline to give out the phone number, Madeline. Oh, okay. No, Madeline stepped out already. All right. Well, just one more thing, if I might. And again, I'm going to try to keep it short. Ladies and gentlemen, Northwest Bronx Democrats today has endorsed Samantha Zherka for the 34th State Senate District. We believe as an organization that once supported Ms. Fernandez, we supported her in 2018 out of the courtesy, respect for Mark Jonai, sadly has turned out to be a major disappointment in the 80th Assembly District, so much so that before the Bronx Democrats chose their person, we decided on Ms. Phyllis Natasio. Now, of course, the Bronx Democratic Party has chosen their candidate, Mr. John Sicaro. I wish both of them the very best of luck, but I will tell you, as I work in the district for Phyllis, I would say the most popular thing people have said about John Sicaro is, who's John? Of course, John is the chief of staff for Raphael Salamakia. I understand he works very hard for Raphael Salamakia.
In the South Bronx.
As he should. But of course, that is the South Bronx area where he spends a great majority of his time. He's already on record saying he spends at least 8 years there, and he is already on record saying that he believes his experience in affordable housing in the South Bronx will be key to build affordable housing here in the North Bronx. Whereas, of course, Ms. Natasio has a slightly different view. She's more concerned about keeping the density low, and if the district does need affordable housing, then the housing itself should be low. So I think there's a very stark difference between the both. But the best news, Bob, is that bye-bye Natalia.
Well, hopefully. We'll see. Now, Anthony, I do want to say something. What is Ms. Natasio's stance on the Just Home project at Jacoby Hospital?
Well, I'm not going to speak for her, but I can tell you what she's done. She, of course, like some others, have been so upset at Councilwoman Velasquez for not being more pushy on the issue, that right now, according to rumors in the street, and again, I'm not speaking for anyone, Marjorie might be reconsidering her reelection. Many people, both Democrat and Republicans, are very upset with Marjorie's position on Just Home, and Tiz, as we affectionately know her as Tiz, has been very adamant about not wanting that project to go forward. I
will say that at the last meeting that was held at Maestro's, the community board meeting, that I saw John Sicaro and I asked him his opinion on Just Home, and his answer was he's opposed to it. And then I said, well, what about influencing your boss, the land use chair, Councilman Raphael Salamanca, to vote against it? He just said, I have nothing to do with what he does. And this is the chief of staff of the councilman saying that he has nothing to do with the councilman. Okay, so I would say that based on his answer, the councilman's going to vote for it. And Marjorie Wise, she did say after at the Bruckner rezoning hearing that member deference is not dead. She did win the 82nd Assembly District and did not win she won the 80th Assembly District, pardon me, after not winning the 82nd. So I would hope that she would lean towards the 80th and be against Just Home. But like you say, we've gotten nothing from her about it. And in the past, she said, I'll be with the community. So I really can't tell where she's going.
Listen, she says deference isn't dead, right?
Yes.
But have you heard her express deference since?
No,
Has she lobbied for it since? Has she made any mass media publicity for it since?
The only,
I mean, whether you like it or not, there are a group of women called 1900 Seminole.
I was going to get to that.
Done more mass reach out, whether they're right or wrong. They've probably done more mass reach out than Marjorie's proclamation of deference.
Correct, and I'm a part of that too now. Okay, they've invited me in along with our friend Ephraim Gonzalez Jr., or I should say Ephraim Gonzalez, to be a part of that. And I'm hoping to bring one of the women. No, women. No, it's mothers and fathers against 1900 Seminole Avenue, and I'm hoping to have Christy, I forgot her last name, to come on the show next week if she can, or someone else to talk about that, since the election will be over, and this is a very big community issue. Unfortunately, yesterday, Mayor Adams released a 97-page outlook of housing for the homeless, and it includes building on the property of Health and Hospitals Corporation. And they had a quote from Dr. Katz, the head of HHC, who, by the way, makes $660,000 a year, which is 3 times what the mayor makes. But he said, yes, I don't like cars, I like buildings. So Jacoby Hospital has a lot of parking lots. And with this proposed Just Home thing, it says at the last page of the handout that was given hours before the public hearing on September 29th, it says at least 50 people every year will be needed to enter this program. And then it says Jacoby Hospital is zoned residential, which tells me that get ready, we're going to build more buildings, because we're going to have 50 people coming every year from the jails, because once Rikers Island closes, these borough hospitals won't have the facilities, and that's why they're looking at Jacoby Hospital in North Central Bronx. I don't know what Community Board 7 has done, or people around North Central Bronx, but the word is that the 2 top floors of North Central Bronx will be cordoned off for the worst criminals from Rikers Island who are sick and need this help. So I
would tell you that that's in discussion, and I can only really say that at this time.
Okay, well, I hope
that is a Community Board 7 conversation.
Okay, I hope they are as active as Community Board 11 was, because Community Board 11 at that last meeting last Thursday voted 30-4 with 1 abstention and 1 person who abstained because they work for Health and Hospitals Corporation, and it's a conflict of interest if they were to vote. So they overwhelmingly showed that the community board and the community is against housing. Let's see, the governor has changed the word from inmates to detainees. Detainees from Rikers Island at Jacoby Hospital. Because
here comes the question, Bob. Here comes the question. If the community board voted 30-4 against it, then should the borough president change her position?
I cannot speak for the borough president. I can tell you that.
I didn't ask you to speak for her. I just asked what you think.
I can tell you that I am not on the community board, even though I applied, and I am at the top of the list. And that was told to me every year I applied because of my experience from another community board, 6 years as vice president of 2 committees and chair of the budget committee. And there are problems on Community Board 11 that it's been such a quiet area that they haven't had any of these problems. And now all of a sudden, problems like Just Home, affordable housing, the Allerton Avenue area is all of a sudden a buzz with new buildings. 2 supermarkets that were once within a block of each other are being torn down. One has been torn down for over 300 units of housing on each spot. So, you can't say that Community Board 11 isn't getting affordable housing, because here you have over 600 units in two spaces, and more is coming, because the building, as we hear from Miss Diana Finch, Bronx Park East has plenty of new buildings going up because that's right near the subway. And the complaint over there now is no parking, because if you're within a quarter of a mile of a subway, you don't really need any parking in these new buildings because the city expects everybody will take the subway to work. So, I mean, Community Board 11 is facing really new problems that it never faced before. It's been a very quiet, a very residential community, and basically all the apartment buildings are no higher than 6 feet. And 8 years ago, in his first year of his administration, Mayor de Blasio changed that the R6 zoning, where these apartment buildings are, can go from 75 feet up to 85 feet. All right, which means they are 8 stories. And we've seen that in Riverdale already. 8-story buildings go up. And the problem, though, with that is that fire chief that I mentioned ran against Jeffrey Dinowitz, told me one thing, that the ladders on the fire trucks can only reach 75 feet. And that's why the height limit was 75 feet. So I don't know how those people in the 7th and the 8th floor are going to get out of these buildings safely if there's a fire. All right. So, I mean, the city is doing things. The mayor, like I said, has just released, he wants hundreds of thousands of new or affordable housing units built. But, and we see, give us a little about your neighborhood. What happened to all those?
Well, you still didn't answer the question. You live in that area, right?
Yep.
So don't you think the borough president should change her mind based on the community board vote?
Well, the borough president has moved to Morris Park herself. She lives in the area. Okay. But if you ask me, should she change her mind? Yes, she should, because we still haven't had all the answers from the city or from the Health and Hospitals Corporation. Forget about Fortune Society. They've already been proven that they can't run it safely. We've come up with areas where they have buildings where there have been incidents. They're telling us to go to one building only in Manhattan where they must patrol it and keep it safe. But most of their other buildings that we see, there are problems. Okay, so, I mean, I said, don't even talk about Fortune Society. It's Health and Hospitals Corporation. That's the main culprit. And HPD, where our infamous former borough president, who was given a $10,000 fine for having a contractor fix his porch, and then became vice president of Stag Developers, is now in charge of HPD, giving out money to developers to build. So, I mean, wouldn't you think that's a conflict of interest?
I think it's all a conflict of interest.
And we just saw the buildings commissioner resign because of certain issues. The Manhattan district attorney all of a sudden is looking into certain things about the former.
He's like some of my professional clients. He's a quiet professional poker player.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and we just had a crane collapse less than a week ago up in the Allerton area where some of these new buildings are going up. So, I mean, it looks like, and I've looked at its statistics, there is more buildings going up this year than last year. So, I mean, are we going to turn Morris Park into Bedford Park? All right. How many single homes are left in your area, Anthony? You've told me stories about buildings one by one going down and big buildings going up. Is that correct?
I think it's safe to say, and it's funny, I don't have those numbers, but I know people that do keep those numbers. But I think it's fair to say in the last 10 years, we've probably lost at least 50 to 60% of our private homes. I might even go as far as 70.
Mm-hmm. And the same thing in where I used to live in Riverdale. Behind me, a one-family house with land was bought, and 13 luxury units were put there. You see, in Riverdale, they can put luxury units because they can get the price for it. That same bill.
Yeah, but they're not doing that. They're putting shelters instead. So, ladies and gentlemen, what this all boils down to is how do you protect your neighborhood? Listen to what Bob is saying. Listen to what I'm saying. It's very simple. It's called zoning. It's called zoning. Go to your local community board. They've only got 2 real powers. One of them is zoning. Go to your community board, find out who sits on the housing committee, who sits on the zoning committee, who's in charge of that. That's how you're going to protect your neighborhood. Don't go to the word advisory, because that represents 90% of what other things that the board can do. When it comes to zoning, it is not advisory, it is legislative.
And, again, coming from a board where we had a lot of land use issues because we had a special nature area and historic district where you couldn't paint your front door a different color without coming before the community board on a land use matter. I have advised, and I'm on the housing committee as a community committee member, and I'm the only community member on a board committee, okay, which the borough president cannot take away from me. And I will be that a community activist, again, which she cannot take away from me. But like I said, we spoke to borough president, and she told me why she didn't put me on, which I will not tell right now, but I may tell it in the future. So there are still 11 vacancies now on the Community Board 11. The borough president has said she got 500 applications for all the community boards.
If I can help you with that a little bit. What were the demographics of Community Board 11 in 2010 versus today?
I don't have those figures in front of me.
Would it be safe to say that the Hispanic population has increased?
It probably would be.
Would it be safe to say that the Black population has increased?
That seems to have stayed the same.
Would it be safe to say that the white population has either increased or decreased?
That has decreased.
On a rough scale, what would you say has been decreased by?
I don't have those figures in front of me, but it's slightly decreased over the past 10 years because the white people have moved out because of what's happening in the Bronx and what is proposed to happen in the area. They have sold their houses before it happens.
So then, according to both the borough president and the bylaws of the city charter, I would presume that community boards have to reflect their neighborhoods. So based upon our 2-minute conversation, it sounds like they need more white people.
Well, I'm not going to say anything, but there are people who were appointed to Community Board 11, some people who never attended one committee meeting. And I'll just leave it at that for now. And Tony, you want to say goodbye because we're at the end of our show?
Ladies and gentlemen, the telephone numbers to the Bronx County Republican headquarters is 718-792-5800. If you want to do some work for TIS, feel free to give us a call and come on down. We're looking for volunteers, and there might be some action going on.
Anthony.
Thank you, Bob.
And with that, we want to thank you for watching the show. And you could always see it again on YouTube in reruns. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.
America Open Market, AO Market. The best digital market for humanity is a free multilingual borderless market open to international sellers with various languages included. With America Open Market, you may start selling in minutes after filling out the form. Comprehensive dashboard where you understand your sales, orders, and customers is available. You get paid directly, securely, and instantly on the America Open Market. You can sell your house, car, electronic laptop, CD player, boombox, phone, headphones, furniture, and clothing, and anything on AmericaOpenMarket.com where all your sales and customer needs are met. Register as a merchant today. You will not regret becoming a vendor at America Open Market. For further inquiries, contact us at aomarket@gmail.com. AO Market, best digital marketplace for humanity.